Welcome to The Wanderer's Compass, a Big Blend radio travel podcast featuring Joelle Machia and Ryan Slough. So welcome, everyone. We are going to Canada today, Victoria in British Columbia. And I know Joelle does live in the Pacific Northwest, and she got Ryan to come over with his son. And now the last episode, we talked about them being in Europe with his son, but then this time we're talking about hopping over the border, which I'm actually really glad we're talking about Canada anytime we can. I want to because I want to make sure that our country, the United States and Canada, remains like, travel buddies. Being up there in the Pacific Northwest, Joelle, hi and welcome back. Do you think that sometimes we just don't listen to what's going on in the news and we just travel amongst each other when you live in a border area?
Absolutely. Hi, Lisa. I hope you're doing well. It's nice to be back this month. It's Canada, especially when you live in the Pacific Northwest, is just literally over the border. And especially back when things were even easier and the dollar was better, it would be constant coming back and forth for shopping and so forth. And a lot of the people around here I know have family in Canada, so they're back and forth all the time too. So there really is a strong connection with the Pacific Northwest and Canada. We really are, we share sort of some mountains, we share the borders, we come easily. It's only from where I am, it's only 2 hours away to get to the Canadian border. That's not far. So it is very much a one community. And where we're talking about today, Victoria, the city of Victoria is the capital city of British Columbia, is on Vancouver Island. That one's a little harder to get to because it is out farther out, both from Vancouver or Seattle and Port Angeles. You have to take a ferry to get there, or you fly. Those are really your two options. There, in my early days living here, we went often. I hadn't been back in decades. And when Ryan and his son were coming out here to visit my husband and I for a week, I was like, we could add another country to your son's list because he got 5 in during our trip in Europe. And so this was an opportunity to throw one in there. And I hadn't been there in so long. I have incredible memories of Butchart Gardens, but, decades is a long time. So it was sort of the perfect, way to get there and also make something special of it. And of course, to tell the story because it is a beautiful city, which we will go into more.
That's awesome. I love this, that you continued it on so quickly after your adventures in Europe and you're about to go back out there again. So glad this interview is happening today because you'd be back on a plane. I mean, you guys just get back on a plane every week or so, it seems like.
Exactly.
It is like that, isn't it? Right?
Is.
But it's so cool. That's what we love about you guys. You're always like, we're so excited about what we just saw. We want more. And if anything, if you're going to be addicted to anything in life, travel is the way to go. What do you think, Ryan? I think travel wins.
I agree. Circle gets the square. No.
Boom, boom. But now, what did you think about going into Canada? Have you been over to Victoria and that area of British Columbia?
I have never heard of it, to tell you the truth.
It's not the only one who got in trouble for saying Vancouver.
She was like, hey, do you want to go here? And I'm like, where's that? She's like, British Columbia. I'm like, that's the other area near you, right? She's like, yes. I'm like, okay. And but it was cool. Kind of got to take those opportunities. He said when you get the chance. So, going over there was my son, just an easy, what was it, a 3-hour ferry ride from Seattle.
Wow.
So not horrible. It's pretty smooth sailing. It's a comfortable ferry. We took the personnel ferries, not the car ferries. And so I will say they do need to stock their breakfast sandwiches better. But it was like 5 minutes into the trip and it wasn't even, it was like a quarter full maybe of people, or maybe 50%. And it was like 5 minutes they were out. And I was like, I guess I'll get something else. But
you snooze, you lose, dude.
Yeah,
and you're snoozing because you're hungry.
It was a nice opportunity. It was good to get there and see, always see a different part of the world. So
that's that, Joelle, you're like, hey, Ryan, bring your son over, come over, hang out in the Pacific Northwest, and let's just hop over to our neighboring country. Now, I there's passports that you can get where you can hop over to Canada and Mexico. And things are always changing in the world of travel. But isn't this an important time to just say, always have your passport ready so you can do these adventures, because you still need to have more than just your ID to get over into Canada.
Yeah. You pretty much have to have a passport, though. If you're going by plane, you absolutely have to have a passport. If you have one of those enhanced IDs that are tied to your passport, you are usually allowed in. But I was watching around me when we got there and going through passport control, and everyone had passports. So I don't know if that's still the same case, but one of the things when I came back from after our European trip, I actually brought Ryan his son's passport with me and said, we're going to need him because without him, we're not getting in, especially his son. So I always have my passport now and actually, as I packed for this European trip, I was packing my American passport, and I was like, oh, should I pack my French passport too? And I was like, well, I'm not going to France. But then I sort of thought, you know what? I should take both my passports because you just never know when that becomes something you should have because anything. So I ended up packing both of them. So yeah, I think you should always have your passport with you, especially when you're near a border of any country, because you never, again, what could happen that you need to come and go. So yeah, pretty much have my passport with me all the time.
That's great. That's great. So when we look at, being able to easily access Canada from your backyard on a ferry, so getting there is pretty good, easy passport, all of that. But where do you arrive going to Victoria?
So we came in on the Victoria Clipper. So there's multiple ways to go. You could take the Blackball ferry from Port Angeles, which is a car ferry. And Vancouver's a very big island. Victoria is at the base of it, but it's very big. So if you're going to go beyond Victoria, you absolutely are going to need a car. But that one leaves out of Port Angeles, so you basically have to take a ferry to take that ferry. So that's one option. A lot of people take float planes over, and one day I would like to do that. I know my parents and my sister did many years ago and really enjoyed it. And you see them landing constantly when you're in the Victoria Harbour. And then you can fly into Victoria International Airport, which is north of the city. But we took the Victoria Clipper, and it's a 3-hour ride. It's sort of a hydrofoil type of boat, 2 stories. They have different classes, but the process is really simple. The rides was very well done, and you literally dock. The advantage to the Clipper is you are docking right there, across from Parliament. The Empress Hotel is right there for you to look at. It is the place to dock, and you walk off the boat, and boom, you are in the heart of the Inner Harbour and of the city and of the things that draw, the visuals that people know of the Parliament and the Empress Hotel are right there. So that is nice because if you go to the airport, the other ferry, it's a distance away. So you have to get yourself to the city. In this case, you are right in the heart. And we did go rent a car, but we only had to walk, Ryan, 5 to 10 minutes to get to where the budget rent a car was. So that was easy to get a car because we're going to visit some castles and we're going to visit Butchart Gardens. And we didn't want to worry about having to take public transportation because our time was limited. We were only there 2 nights. So we wanted to make the most of every moment we had. And it was a very easy city. Of course, Ryan could speak to that, but I felt it was an easy city to navigate, an easy city to drive around.
So Ryan, what was it like getting around? Especially again, now you've got your son with you, right? So it's still a little different, right? And what decision making happens in this adventure.
I mean, yeah, it's very easy to navigate. I mean, you have the what highway, or I don't know what they call it there. The 17 is the main road. It goes basically from the city, goes up all the way up north. So where we went to go to the Butchart Gardens, which was about an hour away, was it? I think.
Yeah, I think 45 minutes it took us.
Yeah, so it's not too far. So like the main, everything like city wise and everything else is from that harbor. I mean, is within an hour, and then once you go out of that limits, you're going into a lot of, countryside and other stuff. So, I mean, like I said, it's a huge, huge island.
And they're on the same side of the street. So,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I thought I'd bring that up because there's such French and English influence in Canada.
It's 100%. It's really interesting. In the French is really only in Quebec. Here it is 100% English. And it's very,
British Columbia. Yeah.
You see the King's photo in multiple places. I mean, obviously the town's named after Queen Victoria. So it is the influence of you. That's what I think is so cool about being this close to this part of Canada. Because when you go there, you truly feel like you've gone into Europe. It feels like a million miles away from the United States. You've got your high tea, you've got your gorgeous architecture, you have your just very European feeling streets and the flowers and the culture is just very European. And even though you're not in Europe, it feels it because of that connection with the UK and England and Europe in general, because there's a lot of melting pot there too. So you see a lot of different cultures there, as you see in many of the big cities in Europe as well.
Very cool. So much happening. And it's the Garden City. And you went to Butchart Gardens. And for many people, that is a bucket list destination. And I know that, Joelle, you garden. I know that you love plants. And Butchart Gardens, is it worth the bucket list?
When I first remember going back decades ago, we're talking probably 30 years, I remember being very impressed. But again, younger and had young kids at the time. So, how much did we really absorb it? So I was very excited to go back, and I've been meaning to for years. And I think the story of Butchart Gardens is absolutely fascinating. This was actually developed by someone named Jeannie Butchart, which her husband Robert operated a very large cement plant. And so this was the limestone quarry that this cement came from. And eventually, they obviously, the quarry was exhausted. So there was, like a lot of times, they just leave it behind, they move on, go to someplace else. She wanted to do something with it. She envisioned transforming this giant, sunken area into one of the world's greatest gardens. See, she literally brought in topsoil this is the early 1900s, I believe around 1904, that she brought in by horse and cart the soil. When you see how massive this area is, it's really hard to imagine what she did with this vision to be able to do it. Also, obviously, the means to do it. And the first garden became the Sunken Garden. And that was, again, I can believe either opened in 1904 or was, around that time frame. And the Sunken Garden, when you enter Butchart Gardens, which is quite they have big parking lots, but it's very well run, very organized, very clear where you're going. Beautiful from the parking lot on. The flowers, the landscape is absolutely breathtaking. The first stop we went to was the Sunken Garden, and you truly go down into this, what used to be the massive quarry. They have waterfalls, and you've got so many iconic views that if anyone sees Butchart Gardens, it usually is the Sunken Gardens. And it's amazing that they supposedly plant a total of 1 million, individual annual type plants every year. So the amount of work, and you especially when I garden as much as I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's mind blowing, because it's absolute almost perfection. And now we're here at this point at the end of June, so the flowers are not at their fullest, because obviously it's a little cooler climate up there, so it takes a while for the, things to really reach maturity. In August, it must be unbelievably stunning. But there's people working everywhere. And I think they have over 100 gardeners, as well as just all the staff, because they're always deadheading, dead flowers. They're always cleaning. They're always weeding. It was an incredible, incredible garden. And then you've got the other gardens that were actually, and for Ryan's son, his favorite was the Japanese garden. You're true. There you go. And that one was the next one she planned for, and that was in 1906, I believe. That one opened, and it was actually designed by someone in Japan. And it's beautiful. It's got streams and bridges and trees and the bamboo water. It is really very well done. And then, of course, I would say, though I love the Sunken Garden, I have a weakness for roses. And they have an incredible collection of roses. And in the way it intertwines with other annuals and perennials, it was absolutely stunning. And then they have the Italian garden and the Mediterranean garden, which are smaller and fountains. But I think what makes Butchart Gardens so amazing is it's beyond that. I mean, this place is open, I think, 7 days a week till 11 o'clock at night, year round. And so this is not just about the flowers.
What about in winter, though?
It's open year round. They say, I've never been in winter, but I hear the displays and the Christmas theme, the lights. They do fireworks shows all summer. This is quite the presentation.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And it is always rated, if you look across the world, as one of the top 5 gardens in the world. And I would absolutely, no doubt. And I mean, Ryan initially, and this is part of the funny part of the story, I want to go there. And Ryan's like, he really thinks I'm blowing this out of proportion. Like, how great could they be? And really, do we need to go all the way to the gardens? It's 45 minutes away, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, no, but my memories are so powerful, and it's always rated one of the best in the world. So actually, now that we have them, we can sort of say from the point of what he thought he was going to get and what he got. I'm curious, how he will put it into words now.
Come on, Ryan. What's up? What's up with it? How was it?
It was pretty. Well, I mean, yeah, it was really nice. I mean, I haven't been to a million gardens like this, but I mean, obviously I've been to like the Versailles and other things, which are a little different. But yeah, it was nice.
Excuse us.
But no, it was nice. I mean, I really said I enjoyed the Japanese garden. I'm going to go through my pictures and model that at my house. There's a Torii gate, and I was like, blueprints, I need that. And I took pictures of it. I was like, one day I'm going to build a Torii gate in my yard. I just don't know when or how.
But see, so does that not go back to the connectivity of travel that you see the Torii gate? You've seen that in real life, and then you see it in gardens, and then you want your own. Take those photos, and now you're being able to bring some of these experiences back home. Isn't that part of the power of travel?
Yeah. It's hard to figure out what you want, and when you see these things, you're just like, oh, that's cool. And then, but then little things like that, I'm like, you know what? That's a part of not only that garden, but when we went to Kyoto and got to see all those gates and how beautiful everything was. And I'm like, man, I see in my head, I'm like, where I'm going to put it, it's just like, wow, I have to get it eventually, just one step at a time, get little things here and there I can incorporate for my travels, different.
It's so cool because then the other side of it is like some people, we don't get there. Like I haven't been there yet. I say yet on the end of everything because I do get there eventually. But the reality is you're giving something as a travel writer too to someone like, hey, I've never even thought about that in my garden because I've never been there. So I just always want to bring out this importance of travel and travel writers and everyone sharing stories, even, the Instagrammer people, you know what I mean? That it does inspire people to get out there and explore and do things. And I would say Butchart Gardens, Ryan, would you say would be an easy place for people to go to from the United States? I mean, because it is an adventure doing the ferry ride too. Like, I think that's fun and different because not everyone gets to take a ferry in their backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as far as you think, and especially, I mean, there's different area. I mean, you can drive up to Vancouver if you want to, and then it's a much shorter ferry from there, so you can get see two cities if you want, So yeah, it's definitely doable, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, if you're there, like, why not?
Like afternoon tea?
Delicious.
Joelle, did he behave himself in a tea room?
First tea I took Ryan to was back in 2015. It was actually Mother's Day, and we were in Scotland, and he loved it. As a matter of fact, that day, oh my gosh, the sandwiches and the desserts we couldn't even eat them all. It was so incredibly generous. So since then, he has definitely welcomed teas when we could. We had some in Ireland and Limerick. That was absolutely incredible, though they don't call it high tea. They call it afternoon tea there. But here in Victoria, we're definitely dealing with the traditional high tea that the United Kingdom is known for. And the one at Butchart Gardens, I mean, the most famous one in Victoria is at the Empress Hotel, clearly. But Butchart Gardens is a close second. And so I was like, well, we're going to be there. And your son loved the high tea we did, or the tea we did in Limerick. I was like, let's do it again, because I am not going all the way to Victoria not having high tea. And so we booked that, and you definitely need to book it because it fills up. You can almost never get an appointment there, especially during the busy months. I mean, this is a massive site, but it's 55 acres, by the way. For people who want to know, you could easily spend a whole day there, but I would plan between coming and going at least 6 hours. I mean, there's a lot involved. But the tea, we sort of had to rush because as we're going through in the Japanese garden, like, oh boy, we better get over there. Our tea time is there and you can't be late. And they had a kids' tower, which was incredible too. You literally ate everything in the tower. And then we had one we each had our own, but the adult one, they had two of everything on ours. And then, of course, the tea was delicious. They had a huge variety. Just the setting. It's actually in the old dining room of the family the original Butchart family, that this was their dining room. That they keep the name very simple, the dining room, and that's where the tea is held. And it's very popular. There's a patio. We were inside, but there's also a patio that overlooks a garden. Just a really fun, and Ryan's son absolutely loved every second of it. And then from there we started leaving, but they have a giant chessboard in the sort of the main area where the shops and everything are, and they land up playing a game of chess / checkers, and that was a lot of fun, just a way to stop and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, that was one of the better teas I think we've had. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, up there, I mean, we had the one high tea at the place in, where was that? Was that in Cork, or was that, I think,
in Limerick?
And then was it Limerick? I can't remember which place.
Yeah, it was Limerick.
But yeah, and then we had one in Portugal, and other places, and I mean, they're always very nice. So I mean, I can't say that any of them have been bad. I tell you. But
do any of them give you like a little spiked tea when you go there?
I don't think I've ever had spiked tea. I've tried to make mine. I didn't know that Long Island tea, like Long Islands don't have tea in it, and I tried to make one with brewed tea, and I was like, this tastes terrible. Then I found out that was a long time ago. But anyway,
that was the first cocktail I ever learned how to make in this country. That was
but all teas always offer adult beverages. And so we definitely got a tasting of two wines. And was it a port, Ryan, or was it, I forget, it was some kind
of... it was like a cider. It was like it was a wine, then there was like a sweet like wine, almost like a port, but it wasn't. And then there was like that, it was like a cider almost. So it like kind of tastes like more like apples or something. And it was very, very sweet, like kind of like the finish. So like level of sweetness, but it was really.
Champagne is usually the most popular.
Yeah.
And actually, I think what Ryan was thinking was we had high tea in Dubrovnik, Croatia. And actually that maybe that was the one you're thinking of versus Limerick, but I forgot about that one too. I remember the one in Portugal. That was really cool too. But we usually get champagne with it because it just fits. It's just the atmosphere about the beautiful teacups and all these beautiful sandwiches.
Go all the way fancy.
Of course.
And pinky up. And pinky up. Well, speaking of fancy, you also went to the Royal British Columbia Museum. And, I'm interested in this because I always think go to museums first, but sometimes you may want to go to Butchart Gardens first and then have the tea with the spiked, little, I don't know, something that's going to give you the hiccups. But, going to a museum of a region really kind of lays the land out. And I always think go first. And then I also go at the end, because then all the pieces of the puzzle can come together. I don't know. What do you think, Joelle? Tell us a little bit about the Royal British Columbia Museum, because isn't this going to cover the entire region?
So this was not, we're not huge museum people, because when we're someplace, we really want to experience the people, the culture, to see. But the reviews of this museum were absolutely glowing. And I thought, okay, we can't miss this. Plus, it seemed to have a lot of good stuff that kids would be interested in. And Ryan's son loves his museums, and he's someone who gets those headphones or whatever, device he can go with that they provide, and he listens to everything.
Wow.
He's very patient. He loves to absorb all that. It's really cute to watch. So the Royal BC Museum is considered by far the best museum in all of Canada, which says a lot. It was founded back in 1886, and basically its main goal is to preserve history and the natural heritage of British Columbia. And while we were there, there's basically four main exhibits. There's the Indigenous galleries. There's the Indigenous population of the Vancouver Island go back thousands of years. So they really, throughout the city, you've got totem poles, you've got lots of connections to the Indigenous culture, and it's the First Nations history that involved there. And this museum is capturing it. And there was a really cool display about preserving language, and which is so important, which ties to our other podcast that we sort of dealt with that in the Table and Compass, is the importance of preserving these, especially non-written down languages. And so you were able to listen to with the speakers that they had available to the different languages and the efforts being made to preserve those languages. So that was the indigenous part. Then there was the natural history part where they have a lot of the coastal rainforest, wildlife, marine ecosystems, ice age exhibits there that were very, very well done. Super, super impressed with those. And Old Town was fascinating. It's a walk through early Victoria streets. So you have Chinatown, the shops, the hotel, the theater, and so forth. They had one area where they had a big boat, or I could say part of a boat. I really felt like that was cool. It was beautifully done. And you really were stepping back in 1800s. Even at points, you go up into a hotel, up the stairs, the second story, which is sort of unusual when you're in that kind of setting. So that was really well done. But I think as a whole, wasn't our favorite part what your son enjoyed so much, Ryan? I mean, maybe you can talk about that, because I just thought that was extremely well done. And they have temporary exhibits. They have one that will be going through 2027. That was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, he really liked the language, which I really liked too, because he was just like, oh, look at this, because he's just seeing that like this sound is this letter and this and what, he's just kind of curious if it's like a whole different thing. So I thought that was really cool that they're trying to preserve that, because I mean like they're kind of like pushing it out there that, well, a lot of these are disappearing and there's not enough people around to keep it there, so they're at least trying to get it cataloged, and be like, hey, this was something there, so people can remember it. But he really liked I really like too is the Egyptian section. It was very well done. A lot of like videos and explanations, so you can like listen to the audio stuff and watch like these different videos and things, and it gives you like a whole concept of like going from what the stages are of like the afterlife, or like how they start to do the funeral process and the mummification, all these different things. There's a couple interactive things where like there was a mummy there, and then you press these buttons and you would read whatever it is, and you'd press it, and then it would show like the heart and the feather on the scale, and then it would show like what it means, and then like these different talismans or whatever that they put around the mummy or other things, and what all the purposes were and everything. So I thought that was really cool. So it was and it wasn't huge, but it was a very nice size exhibit and very well done. So kind of that whole quality not quantity sometimes, and I think it was really well done.
Oh, that's cool. And the other thing, Joelle was mentioning Chinatown being represented in the museum, but it looks like you guys got to go there, Ryan. How did you enjoy that? I mean, because wouldn't you think it's and Chinatowns are so vibrant and so full of energy. I mean, as a traveler and a photographer, did you kind of enjoy that part of it? Like just the whole cultural switch over, when you go there?
Yeah, we unfortunately, we didn't get to go through Chinatown as much as we wanted to, because we were just running out of time and this and that. And then, my boy was getting hungry. We were all getting hungry. But we did get to go through a little bit and walk some streets, but we ended up going to just this little, seeming like a hole in the wall little place, I guess, right on the edge, because we weren't really around all the really cool, like the gates and all that stuff usually when you go into Chinatown kind of thing, and fantastic. Like some of it, we go in there, I'm like, well, hey, and we got a little reservation because they're busy, and we came back. I mean, they could fit probably like 20 people in there, and yeah, it was super good. So, I mean, you could see the influences of what that really represents there come through pretty good on that place. I'll tell you that. So.
Yeah, that was some of the best, more authentic, and that's what the reviews said. Very authentic and very, everything's made fresh. It's not far from Fantan Alley, that whole area, which is what that area is, but it's very intermixed now. I mean, it's full of not only you've got the Chinese, but it's also historic buildings, unique shopping, lots of restaurants. I mean, it's that whole area of that area is really a cool area, and everywhere you felt it was clean. It was safe, and it was full of flowers. I mean, no matter where you were, there were places that had more flowers in one restaurant than a whole city blocks of any place else. It was really it's a beautiful city. The architecture, the the government streets, there's a really neat atmosphere. There's pubs, there's bars. We went to the street alley place that was cool. And everywhere we went, it's very geared to walking. Though there's a lot of bikers, like you would expect probably in Canada, and a lot of what they do in Europe as well. But there's just a very keen to street walking. The hotel we stayed at was the Delta Hotel Victoria Ocean Point. which we actually, was just, we got it because we got it on points with Chase Sapphire Reserve points. And the reviews were great, but we didn't know much about the hotel. Boy, that was a phenomenal hotel. It sits across the harbor from where all the float planes come in and the Parliament and the Empress Hotel, but it's a short walking distance from all these areas, and especially for the Chinatown area. Beautiful views, beautiful hotel, incredible kids program. If someone is coming with kids, they have, all sorts of activities in the weekends and book readings and little campouts and rooms if you want and so forth. They really did a fun job. We were really impressed with that whole environment. But when you walked out of that hotel, there's this bridge right there. But when you look at it a little closer, it's a pedestrian bridge too. So everything is geared toward pedestrians. But then you also, right in front of the hotel, pop up on a water taxi, pops you over to the hotel if you don't want to walk the 10, 15 minutes. So everything is very geared for a walking environment or to get around easily.
So you don't need to have a car. And so environmentally, this is pretty good.
It is very good. And we had actually, and we'll talk about castles in a minute, but on the way back from visiting the castles, we hit Fisherman's Wharf, which actually wasn't far from our hotel either. And that is just cute, a little area of Victoria, that is where the houseboats are. And they had some really cute, colorful houseboats and cool restaurants. Really seems to be a hopping sort of place people go to hang out in relation to the restaurants. But, those kind of houseboat areas, which Seattle has as well, they're just so charming. There's something about those. The one thing there's a lot of in Victoria is parks, and which is what Canada is known for as well as Europe. And there's lots of beautiful parks and lots of playgrounds for kids. So this is a very family-friendly place to visit. And I would not hesitate in a second to bring children. And every place we went, from the Butchart Gardens, which Ryan's son loved, to the museum, to the castles, he loved everything. There was not a part of it was like, oh, on board or whatever. He even got totally into the Parliament building. He was asking all sorts of questions. And when he walked up, and it's free to visit, I wasn't there, Ryan. You guys started talking to somebody. He had gotten a guidebook or something.
Yeah, at the Parliament, there's like the person, you kind of just information booth right outside, and she was like, "Do you want to find or do an activity?" And it's like, "Yeah." So it was like kind of like a, "Hey, find this," So it was like it had pictures of like different statues or like marker, like different architectural features on like the building or on the grounds or whatever. And so you get to walk around and you find things, and then if you get them all and they ask you what it is, you get it, you write it down, and then they give you a little prize. Unfortunately, we ran out of time because by the time we got done eating and doing what we did and came back, we couldn't tell the person that we found them all. But he was a little disappointed. He's like,
see, that's all learning, right?
And we were left, but yeah, it was nice, a little thing like there, and it was a beautiful building inside too. It was super nice.
But that's a learning thing, and that's again traveling with kids, and travel teaches you so much. And I think we talked about that a lot last time on the last show when you took him to Europe. But I mean, not getting your prize sucks, but at the same time, deep down you did it.
Yeah. Like, hey,
and that's the most important thing. It's a big lesson,
Yeah, getting that stuff in, getting little something just to break up whatever, and I was like, well, we get it, so we did kind of half the one day, and then the next day we kind of did the other half, and then like I said, we ran out of time, but it's like, hey, we found. I was like, well, we can. I told him, I was like, we can always come back, but
well, okay, so you've done so much, and I want to close with the harbor area because that's where you go in and out, right? But let's talk about castles, because I know you're both itching to talk about that. Castle hunting. I did not know you were going to find castles in Victoria, British Columbia. What do I know, apparently?
Well, actually, it was like we were preparing for this. It was not very much notice because we only really pulled this together. Actually, on the flight home from Europe, I'm like, we should go to Canada, because his son was like, I want to go to more countries. I want to go more places. Like, let's go to Canada. When you're here, they were already set to come here. It was just a matter of, what we can do. And so when I looked up, I wonder if there's any castles there. Well, it turns out there's two. And they're not medieval castles, obviously, because the Europeans didn't arrive there until much later. But these are true castles in the sense of how castles are meant to be built. They're very elaborate. They're beautiful. And there was two. They're not far from each other. One is more in Victoria, not far from Fisherman's Wharf. The other one is a bit farther out, and they both have some interesting history. I mean, I can talk about the Hatley Castle, and then Ryan could talk about Craigdarroch, because I think he was much more like absolutely blown away by that one. Hatley Castle is on the water, and that one has an interesting history. This is very tied to the royal family, who visited there often. Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria both had been there historically, and what we learned while we did the tour, because you could only see it by tour, was that actually it was the place that was designated, which shows you that it was elaborate enough and prestigious enough that that's where the royal family was going to go if it became in case they had to evacuate London during World War II. So this was all set up as the place they would evacuate to, was to Hatley Castle. And the castle inside is relatively simple. I think they use a lot for weddings now, but they have kept some of the work. They had a gorgeous giant pool table that was really cool. They had a cool museum underground. The grounds there, I think, are especially beautiful. They have a really nice gardens and views of the water. There's a college that's connected next door. It's just more, this was built in this is the same family that built it, but a generation apart. And it was well worth the visit. It didn't take that long. You just had to obviously time yourself to the tour, but it was worth a visit. But I think the other one is the one that was actually one of the last things we did the night before we left. And that one, I think we got in by the skin of our teeth by 1 minute. And so Ryan can talk about that one, because that one really blew us away.
Yeah, and then like always, as we're trying to rush in there, my boy's like, I gotta pee. I'm like, no. No, so we like get in. She like locks the door. I'm like, he's coming. I swear. We told him to knock on the door, and yeah, like I was like, oh, like the worst timing. But man, yeah, it's. I mean, on the outside, it looks just like a big, beautiful, stone mansion, like a Victorian style, like you'd kind of imagine. But it's got the one really nice, like round, like. They call it like the castle tower, like this turret that on the one side, and it's got the wraparound porch, but when you get inside, I mean, you can see how much money they had, because every inch of like the common areas or the areas that guests and everyone would see was just ridiculous. You walk into that foyer and then entranceway, and it's floor to wall to ceiling, just nothing but wood molding, like wood steps, carved wood, like the wood panels, the wood panel ceilings with like the squared pattern, like recessed panels, like a big beautiful stone fireplace. And you look up and it's just 5 stories of that, or was it 4 stories? And it's just, you just look up and it just goes up and up and up of just wood, like super nice. Like, I mean, every bit of it, you think, I mean, if you weren't just in like a little town and this, like, you didn't see the outside, you just like showed up in the inside of that place, you'd be like, I'm 100% in a castle. It's kind of like, how the breakers and, all that stuff and, and up north is, these beautiful stone and this and that. It was kind of like that, but with wood, everywhere. It was really nice. Everything was furnished and filled with everything they had from like a lot of the original stuff. So you really get to see exactly how it was lived in and whatever. And then at points, I think it was a hospital at one point, like a military hospital and other things. So there's a couple of rooms that are kind of like empty still. And you can see the remnants of where like they had a bunch of toilets or whatever stalls they used to have it in there. And there's a couple of films I think have been filmed there, along with the other castle has been, have a few places, films there. But yeah, it was really cool and just a nice part of history that's just like, man, it just sets your mind of like, man, like how ridiculously rich some people were back, at these certain points of time.
He was a coal baron, and this was built back in the late 1800s. And it's over 25,000 square feet. It's massive, 39 rooms. And he died. Robert Ginsburg. And this is a family with a lot of tragedy. That's one thing you read as you walk through here. You're like, wow, this family went through a lot of stuff, maybe because of poor decisions and the focus on money and so forth. But he never saw it. He never saw it completed.
Yeah, they had a ball, like the top floor was a ballroom, which made no sense to me. I was like, the ballroom's on the top floor? So
yeah.
And so on like the fourth floor is like there is this huge open space where like they had a piano.
There's a
And
history
all this
of that.
stuff.
Ballrooms, I mean, even later into discos, they had suspended dance floors in
Really?
discos. And so being up at the top is like this extra feeling of being like elevated in a way.
Yeah, I mean you're up
Um,
in this. I mean it's up on a hill, so I mean when you're overlooking it,
yeah,
you're looking out into like
it's
all
an
the houses.
effect. It's an
Yeah,
effect.
you got the
It's
balconies.
it's like a high, if you will. It's because you are high up, and even if you're just not on solid ground, you're kind of flying already, you know. When you're on solid foundation, when you're, even if you're up on the top floor, like you guys have been to the Eiffel Tower and gone all the way up, right? So there's a different feeling when you're up there than when you're down at the floor. And so that's that thing that has been done in history for a certain feeling atmosphere when you're going to be in a dancing entertainment thing. It's not like you're going
Floating.
into
Like you're floating.
altitude, but it's a feeling. I mean, we had clients in South Africa that put a suspended dance floor, and there's a whole history behind this. It's weird to say, but it is.
That's interesting because I think back to our visit to Cotswolds. We stayed at the Edmonton Park Hotel, which goes back to Shakespeare's days, and they had the ballroom at the top floor. Now they no longer use it as such because just to get up there is complicated, and of course liability because it's a small staircase. But they built this massive room that was used as a ballroom way back when. So you're right. I mean, we're talking many centuries of
Yeah,
this
and maybe it's
popular.
also so that people they had time to do whatever, if something went down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's always a security thing of people are at the top, what are you going to do? That's a bad place to be. But if something's going down no matter what. But it's interesting because I've seen this in like all kinds of things. You're at the top, and I also feel like you think about the Victorian era too. It was about opulence and showing off how much richness you have. How well off are you? And they showed off. I mean, back in the day. It just all the way until like the 1920s, 30s, I would think the people that were rich really wanted to let you know they were rich.
It was all about us. They were very ostentatious. And he was the richest man in all of British Columbia. He was a coal baron. And so it was very much about that and clearly not even about family or what mattered because his kids were put through incredible traumas by him and his wife. But, it was about show. That seemed to be what they mattered most. Speaking of movies, he mentioned movies. I forgot to mention about Hatley Castle, what's most famous for, which Ryan was excited about, which I've never seen, which I'm embarrassed to say, but it's several of the X-Men movie were filmed at Hatley Castle. So anyone who follows X-Men, that is definitely a place you want to visit because of that history and if you're there, that all connects, but I've never seen one.
I don't know. I don't know I have nothing to say. So I'm going to move on to the actual harbor itself, where you arrive, and that's your in and out port. And that's what makes these places so fantastic history and character. And harbor areas are just always just this hotbed of history. And then people move in and they make it pretty, put flower baskets up and everything. And then the town starts to develop and it becomes a little cultured, even though it's like, we're a port, y'all. You know what I mean? So what was that like, Joelle, on that side of it? Is it because I think ports are interesting because it's rough and beautiful at the same time.
I'd say nothing about this port was rough. It's definitely beautifully maintained. And this port was what the original indigenous people have been using for forever as well. So this is like the original port that they've just maintained. There's still, you can tell they're doing a lot of updating. There were definitely some cranes and so forth in the air, but it is beautiful from the even the way the slips for the boats, the connection, the music festivals we walked by. There was a festival going on with live music along the water. You've got the float planes constantly landing. And from the hotel, we could see all of this in view. You've got the Empress Hotel, which is the, beautiful hotel that Victoria is famous for. Parliament Building, which at night lights up beautifully. There's it. It's a really special Inner Harbour. It's unique because really a lot of people have the rough areas of Inner Harbors or the area, oh, you don't want to walk down there. No, that's not what you felt here at all. It was absolutely beautiful, maintained, and just Garden City, absolutely. I would call it more a flower city. There's just flowers and decor absolutely everywhere, and it's very clean, well maintained. You've got throughout it, this acknowledgement of the First Nations that were there, totem poles to statues to markings, but everything's open. You could just even walk up and into the Empress Hotel. You don't want to have to be a guest. You don't feel this, oh, you're not allowed to be there. There's something about this city that's very welcoming and very Canadian. The Canadians are known to be friendly, laid back people, and that's exactly what you feel. It's really a place that you can go slow, you can appreciate. You don't feel rushed. You just feel this sense of just being there and being part of it, and this relaxed atmosphere and this beautiful harbor with all this historic architecture around you. But again, this slow pace, which you can really, truly appreciate and maybe get in, to the whole culture and the people and the history without feeling like I gotta, we were only there 2 days, but at the same time, I was surprised how our, what a slower pace we had and didn't feel rushed and got what we wanted to do, but we even enjoyed meals, longer meals and just walking around. The city just really allows for that, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Ryan, for you, what was some of the highlights?
I liked, just like when I was a kid, I was always fascinated with Native American stuff. So it was nice to be able to see that everywhere and see how well they're, trying to keep that part of their history there, which I really liked. But, just overall, the food was great. You in that harbor, you almost feel like, you'd be, a smaller part of Seattle or something kind of thing where it's like, it's just like laid back. There's a lot of just great places to eat and shop. And it's just a really, as you said, just a more relaxed vibe, and they said they've been expanding things, I guess. So like on our side where we were staying on that little kind of peninsula part of the harbor where our hotel was, they just finished like a lot of the walk around the water. So, you can just kind of walk all the way around in front of all the areas and kind of just walk around the whole sort of peninsula of that area. But yeah, it's real walkable, which I thought was a great, you didn't have to like, we gotta keep getting a car or whatever. There's public transport, but from that area that you're in, you're located to, like I said, Chinatown, like a million places to eat, like the museums and everything. So I think that's what surprised me, how easy it was to get around.
That's really cool. That's really great news for people just going in from Seattle, getting on a ferry, being able to get there, easy to get around, or even flying in, right? So really, what a wonderful destination. I'm so glad to hear about it because I think we always just go right to Vancouver in our minds. So this is great for everyone to hear about. And we can't wait for you both to come home and tell us about Europe. Is that where you're going? Joelle, where are you going? Is it Europe?
Yep, we are going back to Europe. We actually started planning this trip on the way back in June because Ryan's son was so excited about that trip. He's like, where are we going next? And I was like, well, we should grab this opportunity while he's enthusiastic and while we can. You never know what life brings you next year. So we planned this trip. And so when this is being broadcast, we will be spending our last day in Venice. We are flying into Italy. We're going to spend a few days in Trieste, Italy, which we've been to before. We absolutely love. Then we're heading to Slovenia for 4 days in the area of Ljubljana, which, again, another favorite spot of ours. And then we head down to Croatia, and we're going to spend several days in Rovinj along the coastline of the Istria Peninsula, which we have done a previous podcast on. So we're excited to return there as well. And that will actually bring us to 9 countries this summer. And we may, if the schedule allows, pop up to Austria because it actually is only a little more than an hour north.
That's just a little thing, just a little bit more.
A little popover. Surprise my boy would be like, now you got 10.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome though, isn't it? Isn't it? It's just fantastic. I love it. You guys, we're looking forward to our next conversation. Also want to tell everyone, Brian and Joelle and I have created a new show, Table and Compass, and it is going along with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. This is all Joelle's fault, but we're all in 100% because it's about sitting around a table looking at what is going on in the world and what can we do to align with these goals because they make sense. And I love this show. It's at the very beginning. So stay tuned for that. I'm putting a link to that in the episode notes because really, as we travel around the world as travelers, I believe we should look at how we travel, but also what can we do as being part of the temporary community and what can we do to just hold hands across borders and boundaries and all the things that say we can't connect. Yes, we can, right? I think yes, we can. Thank you both, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wanderer's Compass Travel Podcast. New episodes air every second Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow the show at bigblendradio.com and keep up with Joelle and Ryan's adventures at wandererscompass.com.